All right. I call this meeting to order on Tuesday, May 12th at 7:09 p.m. Thank you, Lorelai. Can we please get any amendments? Yes, Nico?
Can I scratch bag on behalf of Sherry?
Yep.
And then can I motion to add USA/BOD allocations to the funding sheet?
I second.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Nico motions, Daniel seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against and all abstaining with a vote of 11 to 0 to 0. The USA BOD is added onto our today's agenda. Divine?
Can we strike ARC allocations, please?
Yes. Edison?
Hello. Could I, sorry, give me a second. Yeah, could I strike CS Mini from the agenda? Thank you.
Yes. Chris?
Hello, may we remove ASRF, please? Thank you.
Yes. Lorelai?
Are you sure you meant ASRF and not TGMF? There's some on ASRF, but none on TGMF.
I think it's just in the wrong spot.
cool.
so I'll
Okay, if you
transfer
could
it
just
over.
copy it over, sounds
Yeah.
good.
Tommy?
All right, two things. I motion to add an appointment for Ariana Osuna to the Judicial Board to the agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Tommy motions, Daniel seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against and all abstaining with a vote of 13 to 0 to 0. Ariana Asuna is added onto an appointment for a J board on tonight's agenda. And then can we please scratch the transportation presentation? Tommy again.
And then I motion to add an executive session on the topic of the Elections Board to the agenda.
Second.
Tommy and Divine seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against. All abstaining with the vote of 12 to 0 to 0. An executive session is added for discussion on elections. What else? Is there anything else? Oh, Lori.
I was just going to ask if transportation was coming again, but they are not.
Jonathan?
Do you have a discretionary fund allocation tonight, or does that need to be struck?
That's strikes, please. And as a reminder, we have to leave the building by 9 p.m. Ten p.m. Okay. All right. Tommy, can you confirm if Ariana is on the Zoom and if you can make her a panelist? Thank you. All right. Can we please get? Are there any other amendments? Oh, Russell?
Can we please strike capital contingency?
Are you talking about contingency programming or there is no capital contingency?
Oh, okay. Sorry. I meant capital, but I guess it's not on there.
Okay, sounds good. Are there any other amendments? Very good. Tommy, are you still putting the asterisk, right? Or did you put it? Oh, it's already on there? Oh, okay, my bad. I thought you were adding the asterisk. Okay. Can someone please motion to approve tonight's agenda?
I motion to approve the agenda for May 12th, 2026.
Second.
Daniel motioned, Hannah seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against. All abstaining. With a vote of 12 to 0, the agenda is approved for May 12th at 7:15 p.m. We will now move on to the approval of our previous meeting minutes. I hope everyone had a chance to review those. I think there were 2 sets. Right? Yeah, there were 2 sets. And if there are no concerns, then those will be approved. We will now move on to public comments. Or is there anybody here in person for public comments? Yes, you may approve. Sorry, you may come up, and whenever you see the timer ready, you may begin.
Hello. Hi guys. It's been a couple weeks. Sorry, I've been very busy. But update on what CalPERG has been working on. We've been busy doing a lot of stuff. We've had our first 2 hearings for the Fish and Game Commission, working to protect more of our oceans across all of California. So we had one in NorCal in San Mateo, and one in Santa Barbara just last week. We've had 100 people testify in support already, and so we're working to get 100 more people to the last hearing next Tuesday in San Clemente. And so yeah, it's going to cover like everything from LA all the way through San Diego. So if you're from any of those places, you should submit a comment in support of why we should protect the ocean there. If not, you should try and also come with us to the hearing. I can share more information about that. But that's most of what we've been focusing on. We're also looking ahead to next year. So wanted to introduce a couple of our new board members, Samita and Elena, who are going to be running the chapter in the fall. Yeah, so kind of wrapping up that. And also looking ahead to our fall campaigns. We're still going to be working on the Oceans campaign over the summer because the Fish and Game Commission keeps delaying their decisions. So hope to work with you guys on that. But yeah, thank you.
Are there any other speakers for in-person public comment today? Yes, you may approach the mic.
Just start whenever.
Yeah, we're supposed to have a 2-minute timer.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Avery Royce. I'm here to give public comment for the elections board specifically. I understand it's very hard to run an election cycle. I was a candidate. I had to navigate all of the intricacies of the election board bylaws and submitting my campaign team and finances and all those sorts of things. But there are several missteps that the elections board has made this year that simply cannot be overlooked, from the lack of transparency to the lack of voter engagement to the end of this voting cycle to the inconsistent application of several of their bylaws. There are several things that the elections board has not done properly, and that has made the election cycle for candidates, ballot representatives, and their campaign teams alike extremely difficult. There are over 60 complaints in the notices of findings folder, which for one election cycle is unprecedented. I urge the elections board to do better, not only for the candidates and for the ballot representatives, but for the student body. They play an incredibly important role in choosing the people that are going to be leading our council next year and leading the student body. And as a part of that, there needs to be much more integrity and specifications that go into this process. And I sincerely hope that the elections board will keep that in mind. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers here in public comment? Yes, Eli, you may approach the mic.
Testing. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Eli Sepulveda. I'm the Chief Justice of the Judicial Board. As you may be aware, in the past week, we have received 3 petitions, one of which has been decided and was released last night, and 2 of which are still ongoing, 26-4 and 26-5. But what I'm here to talk about today is how the board functions. I want to express my deepest disappointment with the IVP's office this entire year because the judicial board is intended to function with 7 associate and chief justice included, 7 justices. This entire year, there has not been a single moment where the judicial board has been fully staffed. That is from the start of the summer when USAC was notified of of what vacancies we had, and it has continued up until today where we are finally, if this candidate is appointed, we will finally in week 7 of spring quarter have 7 justices. Now, it's really funny to me, the timing of this, because we only started getting our appointments when Tommy Contreras had a petition in our case file. And when he was notified that we were unable to come to a decision on whether to approve or deny his petition because we could not meet quorum. We could not meet our 4-person quorum because individuals have lives, and if a family matter comes up for one of our justices and they cannot attend because they have a life, suddenly the entire judicial process stops, and this could have been very well avoided because they were notified of our vacancies in the summer, in the fall when we still had just 1 vacancy, and then in January when those vacancies expanded and USAC was notified that we would have 3 at the start of spring quarter. This is money that is already allocated that has been wasted because no justices have been appointed, and now it is unfair to those that have been appointed because they do not have proper time for orientation. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers here today for in-person public comments? Last chance for in-person public comments. Are there any speakers online? Okay. Tommy, are there anyone with their hands raised? Can you please raise your hands? Okay. With that, I close public comment today at 7:21 p.m. We will now move on to contingency programming fund with, I think, Russell.
Great. So this week we had a total contingency programming request of $73,157, and we recommend an allocation of $27,146 for 2 USAC entities and 48 non-USAC entities. Happy to answer any questions tonight.
Thank you. Can we please get a motion to approve contingency programming?
Motion. Motion to approve a contingency programming request of $27,146 for 2 USAC entities and 48 non-USAC entities.
I second that motion.
Your motions, Chris seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against. All abstaining. With a vote of 13-0, contingency programming is approved for May 12th. We will now move on to SFS allocations.
Yeah, so this week SFS recommends an allocation of $17,572 to 5 USAC entities and 15 non-USAC entities.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? If not, those allocations are approved. We will now move on to SWC with Hannah.
This week, SWC recommends an allocation of $30,085.76 to 8 non-USAC entities and 1 USAC entity. And for clarification on the amount, this is from our special cycle.
Thank you. Are there any questions, comments? If not, those will be approved. We now have AAC travel mini grants with Chris.
Yeah, this week we had 2 applications with a requested allocation of $10,514.27, and we recommend an allocation of $800 to 1 USAC entity and 1 non-USAC entity.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Chris? If not, those will be approved. We will now move on to TGIF.
TGIF recommends an allocation of $7,008.39 to 3 non-USAC entities and 0 USAC entities.
Thank you. We will now move on to CS Transpo Fund.
Yeah, so CS Transpo recommends an allocation of $4,840.70 to 2 USAC entities and 9 non-USAC entities.
Thank you. Are there any questions, comments? Not, those would be approved. Now we have USA BOD.
Hey everyone, the USA/BOD funding body had a request allocation of $2,000 from one non-USAC entity, and we have a recommended allocation of $2,000 to one non-USAC entity. Happy to answer any questions, and if not, I will motion.
Yes, can we get a motion, please?
All right, I motion to approve the allocation of $2,000 to one non-USAC entity for the USA/BOD fund.
A second.
Nico motions, Daniel seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against. All abstaining. With a vote of 12 to 0, the USA BOD allocations are approved. We will now move on to our appointments for the night, including J-Board. That includes the J-Board appointments. Ariana, whenever you're ready, when you see the timer, you may begin your 1-minute opening statement.
Perfect. I see no timer, so I'm gonna go. Hi everyone, my name is Ariana Osuna. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a third-year political science major with minors in American Indian Studies and Chicana Studies. I currently serve as the vice president of the American Indian Student Association, and I work in several different student leadership and advocacy spaces around campus and UC-wide. And so I'm interested in serving on the J board because I value accountability, fair process, and professionalism within student government. And I believe my leadership experience and collaborative approach would help me contribute thoughtfully to the board.
Thank you, Ariana. We will now move on to your question and answer period with the council. My first question to you is how will you ensure that all students are represented fairly on the judicial board and you will ensure fairness across the board for all students?
Yeah, so I think the approach that I would take is to make sure that everyone feels seen and heard. I think for me, it will be best to be impartial and remain professional and willing to listen carefully before making decisions. For me, it would be important to separate personal opinions from governing documents and approach every case fairly and consistently. Being from a marginalized group, especially being the lowest population on campus as a Native student, I definitely have my own experience of being silenced and being shut out. So I think I have that knowledge to bring to J-Board.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from council members? If not, Ariana, we will now move on to your closing statement whenever you're ready.
Perfect. Yeah, so thanks everyone for letting me take the time to speak with you guys today. I really admire the role that a J-Board plays in maintaining fairness and accountability within USAC, and I would love to contribute to that work. I believe my experiences in leadership, collaboration, and student advocacy have prepared me to approach this position thoughtfully, professionally, and impartially. Thanks.
Thank you. Can we now get ARC recommendations?
ARC generally responded positively to Ariana Osuna's commitment to accountability, equity, and her lived experience in advocacy spaces, as well as her baseline understanding of the judicial board's role in enforcing USAC governing documents. However, the committee would have liked to see more specificity in how she would operationalize impartiality in complex or high-profile cases, particularly beyond general statements about following the bylaws and being fair. ARC also would have benefited from clearer, more detailed examples of how she would balance transparency with confidentiality and more developed framework for how she would engage the student body when the judicial board is not actively hearing cases. ARC voted 1 to 2 to 0 on this appointment.
Thank you. Are there any statements or questions from council members? If not, can we please, oh yeah, Daniel.
Just to clarify, 2 voted no or 2 abstained?
Can we get clarification from the council members who voted no? They would like to.
I voted yes.
Thank you, Jaya. All right. Well, if not, we're going to motion. Can someone please motion for a vote for Ariana Osuna's appointment to the Judicial Board? Joy?
I move to appoint Ariana Osuna to the Judicial Board for the 2025 to 2026 school year.
I second.
Joy motions, Brad seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All abstaining. With a vote of 9 to 2 to 1, Ariana Osuna is appointed to the Judicial Board as an as an associate justice for the academic year 2025-2026 and 2026-2027. Thank you. We will now move on to officer reports. I will keep mine written.
Hey everybody, we had the first annual USAC Gala last night. It went really well. Thank you for everyone that came. And yeah, I'm looking forward to wrapping up this year.
Harry?
Hi guys. I just wanted to say that ACA 18 is being heard in Assembly Appropriations this week on Thursday, and so urging everyone to call their elected officials and call those who sit on Assembly Appropriations Committee and urge them to pass ACA 18. That's it. Thanks. Everything else is written.
Thank you. Talia?
Hey guys, I'll keep everything written except this upcoming Thursday is Saturday from 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. is our last safe Lyft rideshare program. So it'll be $7 off each ride for students who redeem, and the code is up on our Instagram.
Thank you. Jaya?
Hello, all. This is our second to last meeting. Congratulations, everyone, for making it thus far. Just a couple things from me as we're wrapping up and turning out next week. Our ethical divestment memo will be released no later than this week, and we will be releasing our last transparency report no later than the end of next week. And then finally, we are doing our last meeting with Associate Vice Chancellor Steve Lurie to follow up on 2 of our policy pushes to see what the commitments look like for the next academic year to see those unfold. But yeah, second to last meeting, y'all. We're almost there.
Thank you. Chris?
Mine will be written tonight. Thank you.
Daniel?
Hello, everyone. I have a couple of updates. First, I just wanted to shout out, yesterday we had a screening of the movie I Love Boosters. That was followed by a Q&A with Kiki Palmer and Boots Riley. It was super successful. We had a great turnout. It was completely sold out. Yeah, and then a couple of future events. This Friday, we have Ultra Bloom on Kirkhoff Patio at 7 p.m. It's our annual EDM concert. It'll be super fun. We have a student openers. In 2 weeks, on May 29th, at the Nimoy at 6:30, we have our annual short film festival, Short Takes. We are still accepting submissions until this Friday. The link is in our Instagram bio. And then lastly, we have our second annual exhibition in Art Fest, our Cycles Art Exhibition on May 26th from 4 to 7 p.m. on Kirkhoff Patio. That should also be super fun. That is the rest of our events for this year. Super excited.
Thank you. Next, we have Edison.
Hello. Just wanted to share that next Wednesday is going to be our annual Service Impact Summit. And it's basically an event where we celebrate the service efforts of our student body. We are still looking for a keynote speaker, and applications are still open. So if anyone is interested or know of a good keynote speaker that we should have, feel free to just reach out. But yeah.
Thank you. Divine?
Hi everyone. It's a busy but great time in CAC right now. We have our final diversity tourist trip to Little Tokyo this Friday. We made our zines. There's going to be all you can eat sushi. So very excited about that. Saturday is the assembly. HH Boondocks. There's going to be matcha. Like Boondocks will be serving matcha as well. It's going to be spring showcase of student performers. Sunday's concert's last event of the year in collaboration with the Caribbean Students Association, the Carnival. Last week was our Battle of the Bands for JRF, and that was really great. After the results of that, there's gonna be 3 student bands performing at JRF, and we're planning to have one of the bands perform with the artist, one of the headlining artists. That's super exciting. And then lastly, our final art gallery of the year is next Thursday. It's AAPI in Swana.
Nico? No, sorry, Joy.
FAC celebrated the D line opening last Friday, May 8th, and we recorded a race reel between the E line, D line, and Uber to see which is the fastest way to get from UCLA to Union Station during rush hour traffic. The reel is currently being edited and will be posted shortly in the coming weeks on our Instagram. But yay, D-Line. And then as a reminder, the Pilot Lily Shaw Disability Cultural Center is open every day from 5 to 10 p.m. So please pull up if you want to study, relax, snack, or craft. And it's located in Strathmore 117.
Nico?
My officer report will be written. Thank you.
Anna?
Just a couple of things. Our Brew Necessities Committee is holding a dental fair on May 18th. So come by for free dental kits and oral screenings. And then the next day on the 19th, they have their menstrual fair. Our Planned Parenthood chapter is going to Sacramento tomorrow to lobby for reproductive related bills. And also, I had one more thing. Oh, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. I hope everybody is taking care of their mental health. But we have a couple of things, including in mental health conference on the 23rd, and our Active Minds committee is also hosting their regular radio segment every Sunday from 5 to 6 p.m.
Here.
Okay, so today we hosted a letter writing event for new transfer students with the Center for Community College Partnerships and the Transfer Student Center, and we'll be handing out these letters to new transfer Bruins on Transfer Bruin Day, which is this Saturday. This Saturday, I will be giving my welcome speech at Transfer Bruin Day alongside Darnell Hunt, Adriana Galvan, and Gary Clark. So that's at 10 a.m. It'll be a fun time. And we are also going to be collaborating with the Transfer Student Center for Transfer Mingle with all the surplus funds we received. And a huge, like one of the last things my office is doing is our free graduation photos for graduating transfer students. Again, one of our surplus proposals. So if you know any graduating transfers that would like a 30-minute session with a professional photographer, please book. We just released the Calendly on our Instagram today. So go check it out at UCLA TSR on Instagram.
Kaya?
Yeah, we had international prom on Friday and it was really fun. We had a henna station. The food was really good. We had salsa society, like teaching a dance class there. And all in all, it went really well. We had a larger turnout than last year, so that was a success as well. And then today we had our last teaching kitchen event of the year, which was with Turkish Student Association. And that's it for today.
Thank you. Orlando?
Hello, everyone. Hope you're all doing well. I do not have any updates today.
Thank you. Lorelai?
Hi, everyone. Reminder to do the purchase card survey and bring that to the office. I already have 2, so thank you to Nico and Hannah for bringing that. And then for transition docs, as of like 5 p.m. today, I'm still missing IVP and president, so please submit those ASAP. And then last thing for me is one of our staff members began reaching out to some of your offices. There was issues with the login info for some of your accounts. So if president, external, GenRep2, CC, SWC, FAC, TSR, and CAC can see me. There's issues with like dual authentication and such. So if you could just come see me either after today or after the meeting today or sometime this week, that would be greatly appreciated.
Thank you. Lori?
Just if you're on campus on Saturday and see all of the transfers, please make them welcome. Take pictures. If their parents are with them, please offer to take a picture with their parent because their parents are never in pictures. That's all.
Hey, hi, hello, all. Just a couple of things from me today. I sent a message out in Slack about this, but didn't hear from anyone. If anyone did a California Pizza Kitchen fundraiser in winter quarter, that money got sent to the UCLA Foundation. So if you would like the money, I need to know whose it is so that I can get it into your account. If it's none of you all, Edison and Hannah, if you could help me see if perhaps it's any of your committees or groups. I mean, yeah, it's not like the most money in the world, but money's money and you earned it, so you should have it. As you all are very well aware, next week is your last meeting. Congrats. And with that, I will once again go over some of these term transition deadlines. So while next week is your last meeting, you all do still have fiscal authority throughout the end of the fiscal year. So requisitions are due June 5th for everything, and then commencement recs are the 12th, I believe. So please make sure that you are getting your recs in sooner rather than later so that once you're done here, you can truly log off and be done. Because if you're still got stuff to do, then you're still going to have to be doing it. You're still going to be signing recs and things of that sort. So remind that you do have that fiscal authority through the end here. And that May 26th is your last day to do any programming. And May 27th is when your new council will be sworn in. May 22nd, that's when your social media accounts will need to be transferred over to the new officer. Just for a general clarification on all of these kind of transition over to the new officer, you know, these deadlines are for that person to at least have access to those things, right? So if come May 22nd, you have a couple more posts and the new person is okay with that, you're welcome to do that so long as they also have access to it starting that 22nd. But they need to have access to it and be okay with that. Your last day of office access is the 25th. So please make sure that your offices are clean, that all of your personal belongings are out. If there are, then it's the 24th. Whatever that day before the 26th is. Make sure all your personal items are out. Once that new person gets in, everyone's cards are going to be wiped, except for CSC and SWC because of their projects. But everyone else's doors will be wiped, and anything left in there becomes the property of that office and is no longer yours at that point, essentially. So please make sure you have everything out, and please make it clean and nice. If you would like to, you know, get the place vacuumed or shampoo the carpets, whatever, before you go, as a nice little goodbye, please let us know and we can help set that up as well. May 30th is the last day for those email accounts to be transferred over and for your P cards to be turned in. And then your ASUCLA employee discount is through the end of the month of May. So if you would like to utilize that good 20% discount before you head out, that will be done at the end of May. And I also wanted to say your final pay. So your pay goes through the end of the month of May. So that means that your final pay will either be June 3rd or June 17th. I will confirm which date of that is correct and let you know. But just so you know, you will need to pick up at least one more check in the month of June, but your pay ends in May, if that makes sense. Other than that, if you have questions about honorarium, staff honorarium for non-referenda offices, please come speak to us individually. And then a last bump, if you know anyone that's potentially interested in sitting on the ASUCLA Board of Directors or Communications Board, that we're going to be collecting those applications very, very, very soon because those appointments have to be done by the end of the year. Don't hesitate to let us know how we can support you in these final weeks.
Jonathan, I know Brett just told me to ask, and then I know Hiram has also been inquiring about this, but what exactly is like I know the BOD terms are 2 years, but like, you know, if there's any like, you know, like what's the current conversation within that about like 1 year terms? Is that like a, you know, is that like a possibility or not?
I don't have any current updates on that. From the last conversation I remember having, that there was potentially an opportunity for like a transfer or something to sit on a committee. But in terms of being an actual voting board member, those terms are, as of now, 2 years.
Thank you. Yeah, and we can follow up with Boria if we need to. All right, thank you. We will now move on to our discussion with Elections Board. The chair and vice chair are here graciously per request of the council. And I mean, I'd be happy to, you know, let the chair and the vice chair do their introductions, and then we would transition into a question and answer period from council. Do you all have anything to present, like to
have like a small, like, you know, intro and spiel, and then we could go into.
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah. That you can use that as your introduction.
Perfect.
Awesome. You, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I hope you all are doing amazing and awesome. My name is Sayyid Tamim Ahmed, and I'm currently serving as the chair of the Undergraduate Student Association Elections Board 2026. And I want to take a moment to speak about this election cycle, the work of the Elections Board, and the principles that have guided our process throughout the year. From the very beginning of this cycle, the Elections Board has remained committed to conducting elections that are fair, equitable, accessible, transparent, and grounded in the Undergraduate Student Association Election Code. Every decision made by the board has been approached through the lens of consistency, due process, institutional neutrality, and preserving the integrity of the election process for every student participating in it. This has been one of the largest and the most operationally demanding election cycles in recent years. The Elections Board has overseen candidate filings, petition verification, ballot preparations, endorsements, campaign finance procedures, complaint investigations, public programming, graphic approvals, judicial board inquiries, and election administration across a campus community of tens of thousands of students. At the same time, this year's election board has also worked intentionally to make itself more accessible and more receptive to candidates than ever before. Members of the election board have held office hours every single weekday, Monday through Friday, throughout the election season in order to ensure that all candidates and ballot representatives had an equitable opportunity to ask questions, receive clarification, raise concerns, and engage directly with the board, regardless of prior institutional knowledge, campaign size, or level of experience with USAC elections. That commitment to equity matters deeply to us because not every student enters this process with the same resources, networks, familiarity with student government, or flexibility in their schedules. Some candidates are balancing classes, jobs, research, family obligations, and organizational commitments while simultaneously navigating a highly technical election process. Our responsibility as an election board is not simply to enforce rules, but to administer elections in a way that ensures students from different backgrounds and circumstances are able to participate meaningfully and fairly within the same system. I also want to specifically address the graphic approval process, as that has understandably been an area of discussion throughout this cycle. The Elections Board has continuously reviewed and processed campaign materials across multiple platforms and formats while balancing a high volume of submissions, all within the timelines as declared in the election code. During this process, we encountered ongoing technical issues with the Student Affairs Information Technology MyUCLA notification system that affected the delivery of approval and denial notification to candidates in certain instances. Following our election board weekly meeting last Tuesday, the board implemented additional communication procedures to proactively address these issues. Our director of publicity is now directly sending email notifications to candidates alongside the existing Student Affairs Information Technology MyUCLA process in order to ensure more reliable and timely communication regarding approvals and denials. Additionally, once these notification issue came to our attention, the Elections Board immediately began working with the information technology of UCLA and relevant campus partners in an effort to identify and resolve the underlying technical problems within the system. I also think it is important to recognize that large-scale student governance operation often involve coordination across multiple campus entities and administrative process. Throughout this cycle, the Elections Board itself has also experienced delays in certain operational matter outside of its direct control, including appointments and interdepartmental coordination processes. Despite these challenges, the board has continued to fulfill its responsibility, maintain accessibility, and administer elections in accordance with the Elections Code and university policy. Our focus throughout this process has remained on ensuring stability, equity, consistency, and continuity for all participants in the election. I also want to note that throughout this election cycle, concerns regarding notification delivery were not raised directly to the Elections Board at the scale that has recently been suggested publicly in last week's USAC meeting. The Election Board has consistently maintained open office hours, official communication channels, and direct accessibility for candidates specifically so that concerns can be addressed promptly and collaboratively while they arise. Constructive feedback is always important, and we welcome it. Continuous improvement is part of maintaining a healthy democratic process. However, I do believe it is important to approach these conversations proportionally and responsibly. Calling into question the overall fairness, validity, or integrity of the election process because of notification delivery issues within a technical platform is, in my view, an overextension of the actual circumstances. The Elections Board has continued to process submissions, communicate decisions, maintain accessibility, and administer elections in accordance with the Elections Code throughout the process. Most importantly, the purpose of graphic approval has never been to limit participation or create unnecessary barriers. The purpose of the process is to ensure that all campaigns are operating under the same standards, that accessibility requirements are maintained, that election communication remain transparent, and that all candidates and ballot representatives are treated fairly and equitably. This year's election board also strengthened accessibility standards within the social media and technology guidelines by making all text or alternative text mandatory on election-related graphics and materials. These requirements were implemented intentionally to help ensure that election communication remain accessible to all students, including students who utilize screen readers and other accessibility tools. Accessibility is not just an afterthought. It is a fundamental component of equitable democratic participation, and the board believed it was important that our election processes reflect those values. This election board has worked in good faith every single day to administer these elections responsibly, neutrally, and consistently. Behind every deadline, review, investigation, and approval are students dedicating countless hours towards ensuring that UCLA's democratic process functions fairly for everyone involved. I want to thank our election board members, directors, volunteers, advisors, campus partners, and students who have contributed their times and energy to this process. I also want to extend my gratitude to council members in this very room who have been a part of this democratic process and have supported student participation and engagement throughout the election cycle. Additionally, I want to thank the candidates, ballot representatives, and members of the student body who participated in this election cycle and engaged with our campus democratic process. At the end of the day, the responsibility of the Elections Board is to uphold an election process that students can trust, one that is rooted in fairness, equity, transparency, and accountability. That responsibility is one we take very seriously, and it is one we will continue to uphold Democracy only functions when students believe their voice matter equally, and the board has worked every day to protect that principle. The results will be announced on May 15, 2026, provided there are no unforeseen circumstances and everything proceeds smoothly. Thank you all very much.
Tommy, just to make this more efficient, could we have a 15-minute timer, please, for question and answer period?
Diego, we're not finished with our introductions.
Oh, okay. You want to go? Yeah. But you'll pull that up in the meantime.
In a much shorter time frame. Hi, my name is Carl Meyer. I serve as the vice chair of the elections board. Tamim and I and our entire board work very, very hard to ensure that fair and equal elections are continuously upheld. Now, last week at council meeting, two issues, tangible issues, were discussed. Graphic request approvals not being approved allegedly within a 48-hour time frame, and then inconsistent notifications for reviews. Now, I also want to mention that during this meeting, it was made clear that SAIT, Student Affairs Informational Technology ticket, had been submitted. I can tell you that that date was April 15th. That is almost a month ago now, and we are still working on that issue because there are technology issues with the graphic approvals form, and we have been addressing those. To give some additional context too, it is important to note that our elections board is functioning shorthanded right now. The code provides that we have a chief of staff, that we have a director of endorsements. We, to our knowledge, actually had someone apply for the director of endorsements role on March 12th. That is now exactly 2 months ago. And that was never moved through the appropriate committee. That application has been sitting there, no response. And the elections board has followed up numerous times in addition to advisors. And there has been no response as of today to the most recent communication. So we're functioning shorthanded. That is something very important to note, and yet we're still succeeding, and we are confident that we are maintaining a fair and equal election. Now, in regards to the 48-hour time frame for the graphics approvals, article, I can say the whole number here, but it's article 8, essentially, subsection 8.2.2.D.V.3, very long elections code. It states 48 hours. And we've been operating off of 48 business hours. This is in light of our publicity director needing to perform an in-depth review of every single graphic that is submitted and ensure that every single one is in perfect alignment with the 54-page elections code before approval. In this election total, we actually just recently reached 400 graphic approvals for one person to review. And just in the last week, since the last USAC meeting where concerns were first expressed by this council, there have been over 100 in the last week for one person to review. All of those have been responded to within or at 16 business hours, 48 to 72 true hours, if you want to convert that. As I mentioned, the SAIT ticket we've been in constant communication with SAIT to ensure that that is getting processed. Obviously, not the fastest resource, but we have adjusted. We have communicated with candidates who have expressed issues with that process. We've been very clear in that communication. Yeah. Additionally, it was mentioned that a multitude of candidates are having major issues with outreach to the elections board with this graphic approvals form. And the elections board and candidates will know this because this was discussed at the mandatory candidate orientation that all of you have went to, and via Instagram, emails, that the elections board is here for all correspondence and to answer any questions or concerns. And we have done that. So, as an elections board, we find it very strange that concerns escalating to the integrity of the elections have not been brought to us by any candidates or officers prior to last week's meeting. Additionally, it was mentioned that these concerns wanted to be moved around J-Board because of Judicial Board's inability to respond to stuff within, taking weeks and weeks to handle stuff. The Judicial Board code actually says that they can expedite hearings within the elections, as we are very familiar with, as was mentioned during public comment. That has been utilized a lot in the past couple of days. Hearings have been expedited, and that is a lot within the code. If there really truly were concerns about the integrity of the elections, the truly democratic method would be to bring those to the judicial board, which has oversight over the elections board. And we find it very concerning that certain officers decided last week to use their platform to bring doubt into the elections within a public forum. Officers have a responsibility to the people they serve. You all know that. You've been serving for a year now. So to use your official platform to spread election denialism all of a sudden without prior outreach to the elections board until last week's meeting is incredibly concerning. There has been no office that has reached out to us expressing concern over the integrity of the election, directly to us prior to last week's meeting. Now, it is within USAC's ability to request us here to discuss concerns. That is not the issue we have. We are happy to be here and discuss tangible concerns. But to use that without prior outreach to us, without going through the judicial board process, and to use that to immediately cast doubt on the election is appalling in our opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Tommy. Whenever you can you pull up the 15-minute timer for question and answer? Yes, Lori?
I don't have a question, obviously, but can we treat this like public comment and it's not personal. This is like inclusive, respectful language. Okay.
Yes. Also a reminder, this is public record. Everything is public record. Forever. Okay. Just tell me whenever you can, please pull up the 15-minute timer. Thank you. All right. And as usual, I will treat this as a question and answer period from council. If you have a question, please raise your hand and I will automatically allow the vice chair or the chair and the vice chair to respond. And then when they're done, you can ask. Yes, Tommy.
All right, first question. Carl, you stated that there has been no contact whatsoever with the appointment that was supposed to be moved forward to the elections board. It has not been moved to the recommended committee. Tamim, have we not had multiple correspondence where I've informed you that the outreach was done, they were invited for an interview and they did not respond?
That was done 2 weeks ago, yeah.
But Carl's statement said no outreach had ever been done.
To him.
Correct, but has outreach been done by this point?
Via official methods, no. Directly, yes. Official meaning email, public records.
Okay.
Yeah.
So email outreach has been conducted by ARC multiple times.
Any other questions? Yes, Chris?
So in your opening statement to me, you used certain terms interchangeably, equality and equity. If I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, you identified that having office hours is an equitable approach. Do you think that it is an equitable approach to have office hours? Or do you think it's an equal approach?
I think so. It's an accessible approach.
But you said equitable. So is it now accessible or is it, in your terms, an equitable approach?
It is both accessible, equitable, and equal.
Okay, well, I'll provide my line of reasoning here. I think that something that I care much about is word usage. And, when I pose questions to people who come before council time and again, I'm always very particular about the questions that I pose. Sometimes it can be seen as tough, but I think they're critical to ensuring that we are able to function properly. For me, equality and equity are not the same thing. And to host office hours weekly is not the equitable approach. It's an equal approach. Wait, I'm not done. There can be an instance in which I have office hours and no people come. There can be an instance in which I have office hours and 2 people come. The 2 people who perhaps come, I'm not sure what the observations are through your office hours. But I think from a philosophical perspective, which I care deeply about, if I were to host office hours and I see that 2 people come to my office hours and that, 10 people aren't coming, for instance, the question that would come to mind is, why aren't those other 10 people coming to my office hours? That brings up an equity issue for me because can they be undergoing things in their life that may be inhibiting them from coming to office hours? So for me, when terms are used like interchangeably, the elections code primarily uses equal, right? You have the equal protection clause, what is it, Article 2, or section, it talks at great length about equal, not necessarily equity. And so when you sort of use these words, I'm very particular about what is being done, because to do something equal is not the same as to do something equitable. And I think what we need now more than ever is equity. And if the elections code needs to be reimagined to account for said equity, then I would argue that that is what needs to be done, because from the data that I checked recently, 5 people have been disqualified. And I did not go insofar as to check why. It's just concerning as to why 5 people have been. And why didn't I? Because I think it's important that, for me, the elections board should be responsible for educating not just the public about the referendums that are on the ballot, about the people that are on the ballot, but they should be responsible for educating candidates about what the proper procedures are. And to me, it's alarming that like a bunch of people are getting disqualified, because one can make the argument then that, is it really an equitable election? And we can go back and then check and then do this and do that. But for me, words matter. And so I just want to get a sense of what has been the values guiding this election. Because when I appointed, at least from a personal position, I appointed for equity. So just to get your sense on it.
To respond to that, I appreciate the distinction between equality and equity, but something being equal does not make it inequitable per se. Office hours have been available to all candidates, regardless of who attends. They've been equally available. Additionally, the email is equally available to all candidates to reach out if there is a scenario where they can't go to office hours. The elections board also has had people who have reached out with urgent concerns outside of office hours, normal times, and the elections board has adjusted to those outside times, outside of the scheduled office hours. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking. In terms of the values guiding this election as well, the values are as defined in the elections code. Our actions have been challenged in now multiple judicial board cases in terms of how we are acting in accordance to those values. And in terms of the ones that have been ruled so far, those have been in favor of upholding our decisions that have occurred within those values.
Also, just wanted to add one more thing, that I love that you brought equal opportunity and equity. We have 30-minute timers of office hours scheduled every single day. In terms of equity, we make sure that like if you cannot come to our office hours, a Zoom link is provided, and it's daily. It's not weekly. It's not like, oh, Thursday you can come or you cannot come. You might have conflict of schedule. You might have something happening with your family. So there have been opportunities where every single candidate, irrespective of the scenario they are currently in, has the opportunity, equal and equitable opportunity to reach out. An unequitable or inequitable office hour would probably be like, hey, please come to our office. This is the scheduled time from Monday to Friday, 11 a.m. to say 4 p.m. But that would be an equal, like everyone is allowed to come. And equitable would be like, hey, if you're not able to come, feel free to Zoom. That's equitable. Like if you're not able to come to campus, if you're a commuter student, if you're commuting far from home, if you have other work. So yeah, I hope that answers and clarifies how we are handling the office hour situation. And we make sure that there is enough office hours that every single concerns can be equitably and equally solved.
Tommy, since you left, or lovely.
Who wants to go next?
I have a follow-up.
Go for it.
So let's look at the data. How many people have leveraged the office hours? How many candidates, ballot representatives have gone to set office hours?
On the top of my head,
Well, I mean, is there a data collection method in
there
place?
is, but on the top of my head, it's probably 22, 23 candidates out of 37. Yeah.
Now, is that data candidates, all candidates?
That's all campaign participants, like including everyone. Yeah.
And does that account for people who might perhaps attended multiple sessions?
No, like these are unique identifiers, not.
So they're observations.
Yeah, like they are.
Okay.
Yeah, they're approximates. Yeah.
And then the other just point I want to make, I'm
Yeah.
not sure if it's associated with the question just yet, but
Mm-hmm.
Carl, in your statement, you mentioned about how candidates haven't directly reached out to you guys as an entity, or expressing their concerns. I don't think if I were a candidate, I would go to the elections board to express my concerns, because I would live in fear that there may be some repercussions. This is nothing personal, but this is a realization that I have, right? I don't think that people who are running in a campaign that have problems with their certain go-abouts of an entity that dictates the processes, the outcomes of said election, will go directly to said board to voice their concerns, right? We are an appropriate group that they can come voice their concerns to. So I find it appalling that you say that you're appalled by the fact that we could engage in a conversation about the concerns that our constituents have. I find that appalling, because I think it's more aligned with common sense to think that a person that is in a campaign would not go to the person who dictates that campaign to voice their concerns. Now, that's just my point of thinking. So I don't think there's a question associated with that, but that's certainly an observation I've made. Yeah, go ahead.
In response to that, yeah, I appreciate that line of reasoning that, if you were to place yourself in the shoes of a candidate, like maybe, yeah, you don't want to communicate directly with the elections board if you're having an issue that involves a decision made by the elections board. And that is exactly why the code states that the judicial board serves as the appellate body of the elections board. The concerns, during my statement, I specifically said that no candidate has reached out to the elections board with concerns about the integrity of the elections to the level that was discussed last week, and then 2, that hasn't reached out to J board. There have been concerns about the integrity of the elections before that people have reached out to the elections board, but those went through the approved judicial board process as designated in the code. That is the common sense answer, to go through the judicial board to appeal and oppose decisions made by the elections board. And that has been the action that has been taken by some candidates. But I want to clarify, I specifically said that no candidate or office has reached out to us with the same level and magnitude of concerns over the integrity of the elections. And 2, that has not gone through the judicial board. That is an important distinction.
In response to that, I understand the distinction, but still, I don't reckon that people who are currently and actively operating a campaign under your purview would reach out to you. And then with respect to the judicial board, okay, so let's talk about the judicial board. I don't make appointments to the judicial board unless they come before USAC, me as my office, right? Folks above me have to move them forward before I have any aptitude to be able to comment on them. But, the judicial board has faced a lot of problems over the course of years that I have actually, I remember single-handedly voting to not reduce their funding. If I remember correctly, Tamim, when you served as ISR, you were one of the individuals I had to argue against because you were in favor of decreasing the judicial board funding. And this is public knowledge, by the way. The YouTube, I've watched it many times. There was my first term, an instance in which everybody on USAC wanted to vote to decrease, if not eliminate, complete funding to institutions like the judicial board. That I had to, and this is public knowledge, so like, if anyone's here, Daily Bruin, go back, watch the video. But like, I was the sole person advocating for not to reduce or eliminate funding for institutions that I think are indispensable, like the J Board. And so they are operating with more limited funding because that has been cut since my first term. And so to your question, you know, our institutions as they are now within UCLA have been crumbled to a sense. I would argue because of funding related issues. So do I think they have the ability to a maximum extent like they used to have, fight these cases? Not necessarily. You're mentioning that USAC has workflow problems that apparently our institution ain't working either. And so when I'm here finding solutions to the problems, take this personally. I have always voiced my opinions. People have taken it personally.
Chris, I don't want to cut you off, but I want to let them respond.
It's a point.
I know, but
well, I'm
we're
gonna
at-
finish.
almost
I'm
have
gonna
3 minutes
finish my
left.
point
Yeah,
because
finish your
anyway,
point,
I'm gonna
please.
extend. I'm gonna
Yeah.
vote to extend the This is an important conversation. I lost my train of thought. It's all to say that I think it's important for us to find solutions to the problems. And that's why I personally wanted you both here today, because I want to find solutions to the problems. This is not personal. This is about finding solutions to the problems so that our student body can have a fair and equitable election.
Absolutely. Could I respond? Yeah, thanks a lot for bringing, and I truly respect Chris for your promptness and having a collaborative ish thing. Just wanted to say that we respect that the council brought queries and questions to the elections board, but what we did not appreciate was this was addressed in a vacuum when the elections board wasn't here. If we really want to find solutions to a problem, we should work together rather than against each other. And I love that you brought up working together to bring solutions to problems. And we also would love to do that. And that's why we are here. We are here to tell you that we are working to bring solutions to problems that have already been existing. Another thing that you brought up was judicial board. This case has nothing to do, our point has nothing to do with judicial board appointments. That was a public comment which was brought before. In our experience, we have had 4 judicial board cases. Today was the 5th one. Yeah, today was the 5th judicial board case that elections board attended. The last 4, I think the 3, 3 was already in our favor. That being said, 2 was already in our favor, 1 was withdrawn. That being said, we also trust the democratic process a lot. And since the integrity of the elections was brought into question, the election board itself filed a non-adversarial case with the judicial board to investigate ourselves, to ensure that we as the elections board are not overstepping to infringe on the integrity, equity, and equality of the election process. So we completely agree with you that there are problems in the system. We completely agree with you that we should work together and collaboratively to address those concerns. But how it should not be done is elections board had no preview last week to come to council. According to, in the constitution, you can request us. We are your appointments. we will be coming because we support and we are confident in the integrity of the election process, and we will be here. So we want to work with you to ensure that this election process is equitable, and it is. I can confidently say that.
Talia.
Do we have to motion to extend time?
Yes, motion for I think 15 more minutes.
Second.
No, that wasn't a motion. I was
I
saying,
motion to extend for 15 more minutes.
Second.
all in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against. All abstaining. With a vote of 12 to 0 to 0. Q&A time is extended by 15 more minutes. If we could have that on the timer, please. All right, Talia.
I guess I just have like a clarifying question that I think also will maybe, I don't know, have us move towards something like more productive. Not that this hasn't been, but I guess I definitely hear Chris's point about students not necessarily wanting to go through judicial board. I think it can be like super intimidating. I think I'm just wondering that before last week's council meeting, when USAC officers or anyone was notified about issues from our students about how like election board was conducting things, did anyone on USAC approach elections board about those concerns, like to be like the connecting body to them to say that something had been going on? Or was last week's meeting the discussion that was raised the first time elections board was made aware by anyone on USAC that there was an issue? Not saying that like, I'm just wondering for the sake of transparency.
Would you like to answer?
That was the first time it's been brought up by this council to elections board, was at last week's meeting. There was no prior concerns brought up at that level outside of the judicial board process.
Tommy?
I would just like to say that there are numerous emails between us specifically regarding the graphics approval, to which, just to clarify, for graphics approval, there have been issues with the form. Once again, I vocalized after they had implemented their emailing system, hey, we're still not getting, as far as referendum, we're still not getting emails. And the response was, oh, we're sorry, our system seems to have blocked your email, so you haven't been receiving them. So issues have been brought up numerous times.
Could I
I mean,
respond to
yeah,
that?
yeah.
It's still in the, like, first of all, it is directly outside our control. Second thing, it is still under the 48 hours preview that has been in the election code.
Additionally, too, to add on to that, issues about the graphics approval form have been brought up to the elections board. That is something that I will agree with you on. But using that to equate it to doubt of the election itself has not been brought up. That is a massive, massive difference between concerns about the graphics approval form. And additionally, there already has been email correspondence. Even before this issue was brought up at last week's meeting, the elections board was already working with candidates who reached out inquiring about the status of the graphic approvals when they had the technological issue and did not receive notification. The elections board was already working with those candidates and updating them on the status as they asked about it.
Daniel?
Well, I just want to say, I know like obviously a lot of us on council right now are like running ballot initiatives or like rerunning for a position. So like obviously like we've been in contact or like I've talked to Tamim, asked him questions. Like I'm sure other people have like talked to you, but I will say I do think that's different than us like going to you as a council member. Like I feel like we're going to you as like called or representatives or people running. But I just want to say I think we brought it up last meeting just because we wanted to see if it was worth bringing you guys in. I don't think it was like anything that came up maliciously. I'm sure it didn't come up like that. We just wanted to talk about it and see if it was worth bringing you guys in to make a whole thing, and that's why this is happening. But yeah, that's just all I wanted to say.
Tamim.
So again, like the elections board is very accessible. Like I'm sure you as a candidate know that like we have office hours under every single email. We have like a thing for booking office meetings and everything. We are also very accessible to council. Once we were informed that we had to come here, we came here. If you would have invited us last week when these concerns were being raised, we would also have come here. So once again, like, feel free, like, this is not taken as a personal capacity as me or Carl. We both are here as chair and vice chair for 2 more weeks, and we are here to ensure that the integrity and the trust in the electoral process is being upheld, and that is equitably applying of the election code.
Nico?
Yeah, I was the one who brought up the discussion last meeting, and my main question was, what could we as council do? And the solution was to invite you guys to council. So it was not malicious last week. It was just to bring up my own opinions and to see if, once again, it was worth going about it. Now, I would like to go back to what you stated in your opening statement, that you guys have been following a 48 business hour turnaround for graphics. In emails sent to candidates, you wrote 3 to 5 business days. I can tell you the day, it was April 17th. 2 to 3 business days, sorry, 2 to 3. I would just want to know where in the election code it says that it is business days or business hours, where I'm seeing in the election code it says 48 hours. Nothing about business, nothing about weekend. 48 hours implies 48 hours, regardless of the day of the week. So to me, that seems like an issue with not following the election code, which is why candidates have brought that to my attention as a council member to bring up to you guys, since the code is what all candidates and the e-board should be going by. So I would just like to hear your thoughts on that discrepancy.
Yeah, for sure. In terms of the 2 to 3 business days on, you said April 17th, right? So that was prior to the election season. So that has been adjusted as such now that we are at the, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Microphone. You want to repeat it?
I believe like the season had already started, like for online campaigning.
Voting, I'll correct myself, for voting, the voting has started, right? But even then, all of the responses throughout the entire elections process have been at or within 16 business hours, even faster than that 2 to 3 business hours timeline. Additionally, in regards to the code that says 48 hours, we have been operating off of 48 business hours for our director that operates the graphics approvals form to be realistic about their workload. As I mentioned, there's been 400 approvals, 100 since last week. There's a lot of work that goes into that position, and that director has a life outside of that position as well. Now, that doesn't prevent the director from being able to do their job appropriately and within code. So we've been operating off of 48 business hours for the graphics approvals form. As previously mentioned by Tamim, we have filed a non-adversarial petition to review stuff like that, to review interpretations of the code like that with the judicial board. That petition has been approved. We're still waiting on review though. But that has been the process that we have been operating off of, and that was not a process which was being directly questioned in regards to that code prior.
I also just want to add that, like, even though we have been saying 48 business hours, we have been delivering within 48 hours. So, like, even though we have been saying that it is 48 like business hours, we have been delivering before that. Yeah.
Who wants to ask a question? I feel like Talia.
I guess just now that you guys have served and are actively serving, do you think that in the future having a second graphics approval person would be helpful and would make it so that you guys can, do it within 48 hours and maybe not have to do the business hours, just like you guys are in the positions you are and would know better. So would that be helpful?
I think so. The election code has a lot of positions right now which are still unfilled. And having a complete team would definitely help us alleviate all the problems with timing. Also, one thing which is my mic on? Hello, check, check.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, in regards to like graphic approvals, and I'll bring in investigations as well as an example for the investigations, we have a committee to support that director. That would also be beneficial for our publicity director. I believe the code, don't quote me on this, but I believe the code does provide for a publicity committee. If it doesn't, that is what would be beneficial. And then in addition, outreach to recruit for that committee, because there are other committees in the code, but that just hasn't been like support with recruitment to fill up those committees to provide support with the graphics approvals form would be beneficial based off our experience.
Nico?
Yeah, so you guys said you've been operating under the assumption that it's business hours, but my question for you is that you guys can't like change the code without USAC approval when it says 48 hours and you're asking your candidates to follow this code. How do you think the candidates feel when you guys as election board aren't following the 48 hours? It doesn't say business hours, it says 48 hours. And you say that you've been doing it under 16 hours, but I can speak for many candidates in this election who have shown me the emails. It has not been 16 hours, it's not even been 48 hours, which is why I brought this up.
Yeah. I think so 16 business hours, that's what we mentioned. That's a very big thing. If you're submitting something on, say, Sunday at 1 a.m., as many candidates this cycle have been doing, it would be, or like Saturday at 1 a.m., or like maybe Friday at 1 a.m. It's not possible for like the elections team to be doing that. And that's why we have also filed with the elections board to the judicial board to ensure that that is there.
Tommy?
So here we go, like again, so with the emphasis on business, adding the word business would fundamentally alter the code. So even if you are saying you're operating on 16 business hours, the code says nothing about business. It says 48 hours. So, and again, this was public communication communicated to all candidates and therefore the university. So if the elections board is publicly communicating information to the student body that directly does not reflect the code nor your actions, how do you expect the student body to then respond when this is information you are publicly communicating, even if it's not representative of your own actions?
Perfect. Thank you for that question. I think so there is one specific thing in the election code which says interpretation of the code is up to the discretion of the elections board chair. That is something which is in the code, and we have made ourselves very, very accountable to that, and like we are consistent with that. And that's why we also have a judicial board case incoming.
Additionally to that 48 hours, we do not interpret that as sorry, I lost my train of thought. We interpret it as 48 business hours. And right now, like I said, we're getting that verified through the judicial board process, through the appropriate processes for that. But we interpret it through 48 business hours, and that is the way we have been operating. And like Tamim said, the code describes in itself that a lot of its portions are at the discretion of the elections board chair.
Tommy?
So if we're talking about interpretation, can you please walk me through your logic using the code as to what emphasis in the code would logically lead you to explain or conclude that this means business hours?
Again, that like we have been in contact with the judicial board about this as well. We also consulted the judicial board on hours in codes of the USAC constitution as well as the election board. And the judicial board itself said that like, hey, we consider hours mentioned in USAC constitution, elections code, as well as other guiding documents like the judicial code as business hours, and a determination on that is going to come very soon. So yeah, we'll be following that.
Correct. But I'm asking you all, since this question was directed at you, I've been in contact with the judicial board, so I'm comfortable asking them. But to you all, please walk us through your logic to your interpretation of the code. As you said, this is the logic you all applied. So what is the language in this code that leads you to this interpretation?
The code just says that the elections board has 48 hours to review all campaign materials and notify candidates if they're approved. Our interpretation of that as business hours is based off of the oh my gosh, I'm forgetting the word. Essentially, like the how realistic it is for one person to be able to approve 400 reports while being a student, while working jobs, within 48 hours. 48 business hours is something that is mentioned repeatedly across multiple guiding documents. Sorry, not 48 business hours. Business hours is something that is referenced across multiple guiding documents. So that is what leads to us interpreting that as 48 business hours.
Divine,
Those
we're
where, like in the elections code, does it
Tell me-
say 48 business hours
Tommy,
or
we're
business
officially out
hours?
of time, but I wanted to give Divine the last question for this time set.
Extending.
Could we extend it by 5 minutes? Oh, wait. Oh,
Longer.
Can we extend it by 15 minutes?
30 minutes, I'd say.
I motion to extend this conversation by 15 minutes.
A second.
All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against. All abstaining with a vote of 8 to 1 to 0. I think it was 8 to 1 to 0. We will extend the Q&A by 5 more minutes to 8:40. So to fine.
Yeah,
You said 15?
I said 15.
Okay, so we will extend it to 15 more minutes. So that means 8:50. Fine.
I have a quick comment and a question. So my first comment is that like the point still stands that business versus days is a very big distinction. On April 8th, to me, we sent an email after for the start of online campaigning, and it also says there in bold 2 to 3 days for graphics review and approval. It does not say business days, and that would change it a lot. So my question is, Carl, you had said that if all the positions in elections board would fill, that would make it more helpful to review these applications. So you keep mentioning how it's only one person. I completely understand that that's a lot, but can you guys help the publicity person out with these? Because if more people were to fill the position, that still necessarily wouldn't help because it still would be one publicity person. So to me, it sounded like if these other positions were filled, then these other people would be helping him. But so yeah, could you guys help him out with that, or have you guys been helping him review those submissions?
Yeah, we have been assisting with reviewing submissions. The primary responsibility has fallen on our publicity chair to do so, but we have been assisting with that in light of everything.
Any other hands to my left? Chris?
Sorry. Well, I could not concur more with Tommy. I think you mentioned that there are documents that have been guiding you, but the one document that should be guiding you is the elections code. Every other document is not germane if it doesn't align with the elections code. And, you know, I used to work for the Long Beach Superior Court, and we needed to notify unlawful detainers, people who were being evicted, whether or not it would be business days or not. That is a great difference. And if the elections code in its current form does not say business, you are in violation of it, irrespective of if that's what the election board said, and I'm reading it right now, and it does not say business hours. And I actually don't even think it's to say, well, the chair has the discretion to make these determinations. Did you communicate the determinations? Because if you didn't communicate them to the audience, then the whole accessibility value isn't at play. So that's my commentary. And then my question is, at any point, have any of the candidates been made aware of the judicial board through communication? Do any of your slides include a judicial board? I'm curious to know.
Yeah, thank you for bringing up. So I'm just going to answer the question which you asked about. Every single candidate, whenever there is a sanction and we have notice of finding, we have over 100 notice of finding complaints as of now. Just to elaborate, last year was only 13. Every single person, when they're given a notice of finding, they know about the judicial board as an appellate body. Even in the what do you call the candidate orientation, it was made certain that like, hey, judicial board is the appellate body. So if there is any concerns regarding elections board or the decisions made by the elections board, feel free to appeal it to the judicial board. And something which has been done pretty well, which I would commend the democratic process. And that shows that like people are using those judicial board cases to raise their concerns on the elections board. And we have been able to defend all of them, which all have been out. And the second question is, wait, what was the other question? Did you have another part of the question?
I do have another
Yeah.
question that I didn't ask, but I'll ask it later after other folks get a chance.
I guess at this point, obviously, I think it's very obvious that, you know, there's some level of confusion about like the whole like business or not business or whatever it is. But at this point, I guess I think we should start talking about how we move forward and like how we figure out how to make sure this doesn't happen again for the remainder of the election. Like, or like, do you guys think you guys have a capacity to like increase the speed, or at this point maybe it's worth putting out a statement and being like in our current capacity, this is like how fast we can do it. I don't know exactly what the solution is because the verbiage isn't in the election code for it to be business days. I guess I'm just wondering, how do you guys plan to alleviate the confusion right now? Whether or not you agree with whether the confusion is valid, candidates are concerned and just kind of the present reality. So that's one question. And then also, I think for future election codes, I think it's worth just adding another person to approve graphics. And I don't know if you guys have been taking note of like what your experience has been or recommendations to like the future chair, but that's something you guys can add to request of USAC or whoever to appoint another person to approve graphics so it doesn't have to be on one student. So that's more of just like a suggestion. But my first question is how can we move forward at this point in time?
Okay, I think so. You brought up a great question. As one thing, like last week, the first actions that we did was file a judicial board case against us, like to audit us and to ensure that like we have a clarification on what the elections code verbiage actually means to get that clarification. So that is probably going to be coming out by tomorrow, hopefully. Yeah, we don't know, but apart from that, we are still following the guidelines that we had set at the start of the elections, and we are continuing to follow those guidelines. And those guidelines have been equitable to every single person, if that makes sense.
Be proceeding with 48 hours, like just 48 hours or 48 business hours?
48.
Like from now, what should candidates expect? I mean, like, I feel like to align with the election code, now that we've clarified, it should just be 48 hours. But also like, I don't know if we can just change the election code at this exact moment, but how are you guys moving forward?
So we follow the election code and we have interpreted it as 48 business hours. And unless and until told so to do by the judicial board, we will be having that same representation of 48 business hours. Unless and until there is a judicial board clarification on that explicitly says that it is 48 hours and not 48 business hours, we will be continuing to do the same. Thank you.
Brett?
Yeah, I agree with Talia's point. I feel like next steps are kind of what should be the focus of this conversation moving forward. I mean, we all went through the elections process. We all know that graphics was like kind of an issue last year. It's historically an issue. And I feel like maybe we just need some commitment on like ensuring that there's probably a second like media person or something like that. But I think quite frankly, like I don't think this conversation needs to continue, especially when we have an executive session. I don't know what the point of that would be because we're having this discussion right now, but that's my 2 cents.
Microphone.
So I think just overall, it seems like there, especially regarding graphics approval, there clearly is a large issue to be had with them. I am one of those people that have not had graphics. So I requested times to be pulled from another candidates of when their approvals were both submitted and approved. I'm going to read some of them out to show that a lot of them were not even completed within the 48-hour window past that, just so we can kind of gauge a scope of because if you're saying the majority have been approved within 16 and the fact that this candidate in particular has had these wait times, that shows a lot about the equity when it comes to graphics approval. So graphic approval 193 submitted April 23rd at 12:22 a.m. Approved the 27th at 9:06 a.m. Graphic approval 230 submitted April 28th at 11:09 a.m. Approved April 30th at 7:22 p.m. Graphic approval 231 submitted April 28th at 11:11 a.m. Approved April 30th 7:26 p.m. Graphics approval 237 submitted April 29th at 8:43, approved May 1st at 3:42. So a lot of the stuff you are saying or have presented to the board about 16 hours or none have gone beyond the 48 is not factual if we're just looking at this one person. So it seems like there have been continued inconsistencies in what you have provided information to us today. So when it comes to just being open and being able to take accountability, I think moving forward, there also has to be some statement made to the candidates or the UCLA community regarding these inconsistencies, because they are just based off the times read, they're not even in line with, let's even say, the 48 hours if they were business for some of them.
Let Carl answer, but could you also send us those details so that we could check it on our end as well, the numbers? And if you would like, we would also request if you would like to open a judicial board case on that as well to investigate those processes as well. Thank you.
I think with the comments that were made today, I don't think any judicial board case I personally introduced would be viewed fairly. So
Wait, let me follow up too. Obviously, like Tamim requested, like having those times would be appreciated. Because also just based off my listening, and this is like without having everything in front of me, and I'm looking at a calendar right now, I'm trying to adjust. A lot of those sounded within 2 calendar dates, which 2 calendar dates, there are 8 hours, 8 business hours per day. That would fall within the 16 business hours. Obviously, I don't have the dates I don't have those times, those submission and review times in front of me to verify that. But also that was not a concern that was brought up to us as to that extent in terms of questioning the code and everything. That candidate, whoever, I don't know who it is off the top of my head, but that is not a concern that was brought up regarding those specific submissions to my knowledge.
So if at the beginning, when we're talking about equity and you want to talk about candidates recognizing that not all of them know the code in and out and coming from different backgrounds, how is it fair for you right now to make a statement that no candidate has explicitly brought up the code? When in your opening statement, you talk about wanting everybody to, we recognize all these different backgrounds and institutional knowledge. So how is it fair for you to make that statement right now that no candidate has mentioned the code?
It's fair because at the candidate orientation meeting, the candidates are made aware of the existence of the code and that it is their responsibility to understand and know the code. And the elections board opens up office hours and email to ask questions about the code. That is what makes it fair. The candidates, this has been discussed before, that candidates are responsible for knowing the code that they're required to follow in addition to the elections board.
So hypothetically for me, whose email has been blocked, how have I had equal opportunity to ask questions when my email has been blocked?
Still been communicating emails with you, and when we get the notification that an email is blocked, we make efforts to ensure that all emails have gone through. Additionally, there has been a SAIT ticket filed in that specific instance, but we still have been communicating throughout this election cycle. There hasn't been a lack of communication between us and other candidates. Communication has still occurred.
Also, whenever we get the response that an email has been blocked, we have emailed you on your IVP email. We have also ensured to CC Jonathan so that like that level of communication can be done.
After the fact, it took me emailing you from a different email address to then recognize that that past email had been blocked and you sent the screenshot.
Receive any email from you. So if there was no email that was received. Wait, could you please repeat your question?
Wait,
Sorry.
No, that's what I'm saying, because you said you worked with me, but like it took me reaching out from a different like address to like see that, oh, your past email had been blocked. But it's still just like, I think even with the tech ticket that has been put in, like you said, a month ago, this is a really large issue considering that this timeline is so particular. Like it's a big thing to talk about with regards to this election. And even if things are out of, let's say, your direct control, when it comes to every candidate having equal opportunity to participate, the technology even of itself, I think as a council, we need to evaluate as well, because not all candidates have had equal opportunity, even if it's something out of their direct control. I think that's something we also need to work through, because we've had tickets put in for our workflow that have been taken forever to resolve with SAIT. So I definitely think as we look forward, we definitely need to look at potentially exploring alternative options. And then one other point I wanted to make, are you guys the ones that submit the ballot and structure that?
The ballot to the SAI, like on
Correct.
my
Like who
UCLA,
you would like to see who's on the ballot?
my UCLA.
Yes.
Yes.
So my other question is, why was the one or the slates that were represented in this election not submitted as slates and are not visible as slates on that form? If they have gone through the proper filing and proceedings to be ran as slates, how is that fair to them who have been put in all that extra effort, extra work to register that? And now the student body, if we want to be as communicative, can't see that when they're on their ballot.
Time we're hearing about this issue, and in regards to everything we've been talking about with the technology, we can only address issues when we have knowledge of them or when they come up. That is something we have done throughout this entire elections process with all the tech issues. So if that is truly an issue, we will work to address it. But this is the first time that, like me personally, I'm hearing about this.
All right, Nico, and the last question, and I really strongly discourage another motion because we could be here literally all night. Nico?
I motion to add 15 minutes to this discussion.
I second the motion.
Nico motions, Chris seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. All abstaining. With a vote of 8 to 3 to 0, the time is extended by 15 minutes to 9:10. No, 9:05? 9:05. Nico.
Yeah, to go off the slate, it says very explicitly in the election code, section 4.9, slate members, subsection 2, slate affiliation or lack thereof shall be denoted next to the candidate's name or referendum's name on the ballot. The sample ballot was visibly available. As the election board chair and vice chair, do you not feel responsible for not checking the ballot yourselves and recognizing this? Because the election code explicitly says it. You said it hasn't been brought to your attention, but I feel like your fiduciary duty would be to check the ballot before it goes public to the student body to ensure that what's on the ballot is representative of what the election has going on. I feel like that is like a very large gap in your responsibility that you guys just said has not been brought to your attention. That shouldn't have had to be brought to your attention. That was a pretty big thing, in my opinion. But I would like to hear what your thoughts are on that.
Like I said before, we work to address issues before they come up, but not every issue that comes up, obviously, it is only realistic to allow us to take accountability for that. We're working to confirm this, but if that is a mistake, that is something we'll be accountable for. You know, but we can't, it is impossible to ask anyone in any aspect of life to completely preempt every single issue that can pop up. We do our best to preempt as many issues as possible, but again, we can only address issues as they come up, and we have done our responsibility in addressing issues as they have come up to our attention.
Nico and then Chris.
Okay, sure. another thing I wanted to bring up during this meeting is your use of carryover dollars to advertise this campaign. I noticed that some carryover dollars went to a cameo from a celebrity. A lot is going to giveaways. How do you guys feel like that's the best use of over $10,000 of student fees to encourage voters to vote, especially since your Instagram doesn't have the biggest visibility? I'm just trying to think like, is that the best use of our student fee dollars to increase participation in this election?
Absolutely. So the carryover dollars that was requested from council was for student reimbursements and is not being used for the cameos. The $8,000 that was allocated for marketing for Daily Bruin this year was cut to $0 for Daily Bruin and is being invested directly in students. So those money is not coming from the carryover that was requested from council. Hope that clarifies the question.
Additionally, in terms of like specifically mentioning like our advertising methods, like that that cameo, that's our most viewed post this election cycle in terms of trying to get attention of the campus community to go out and vote. And we've been repurposing the money that previously was spent on different media publication contracts that we did not feel appropriately and effectively reached out to the student body. We've been repurposing that money to engage with more of the student body. I know, like, as a personal testimony, I'm hearing way more people talk about, oh, giveaways and this and that for this year's elections than past elections as someone who's been here for a while. And I think that reallocation of the money that's spent on different contracts has been effective in getting people to hear about the election, and we'll see the final result of that with the turnout percentage.
Nico.
Yeah, continuing on with finances, in the election code, 9.1 campaign finance rules and regulations, subsection 3, bullet point M, it states that all expense accounts of every campaign shall be made available on all UCLA, to all UCLA students, staff, and faculty for inspection during normal election board office hours with election board approval. And then the election board shall publish the total expenses of each campaign before voting ends, with voting ending in a few days. Do you guys have a plan to publish all of those finances? Because so far I have not been able to see anything on campaign expenditures, despite the final expenditure form being due last week.
Yeah, as you mentioned, the code does state that those total expenses are required to be published before voting ends. So there's still 3 days before that, like 2.5 if you want to count the 12 hours for Friday. That is something that has been processed, and that is something we do plan to publish before that deadline that is stated in the code.
Okay, thank you.
Chris and Tommy.
Just a few questions. In your opening statement, you talked about the fact that we had questions and concerns last week about graphics approvals. Did you guys request that your director of publicity also come along to this meeting? Did you reach out to them to partake in this meeting, or what was the process for that?
We reached out. They were unavailable at this time because they're actually running for an executive board position for something else. We reached out, but we didn't feel that it was necessary for them to attend. They were not part of that invitation. It was the vice chair and chair that were invited. And we feel confident in speaking on behalf of them in terms of our association with the graphics approvals process.
So just for the record, you did not feel it was necessary for them to come to this meeting, even though you had knowledge that graphics approval was one of the primary concerns, as is evident right now. I just want to make sure for the record to gauge what your position is on that.
For the record, there was a scheduling conflict, and we felt that we were appropriate. We have been involved with the graphics approval form enough to answer these questions.
I have one more question.
Tommy.
All right. So I think my question is to, you guys mentioned like the various online, the tactics you guys have been using to kind of increase voter turnout and like the money spent towards those online things. In your guys' perspective, to what extent do you think these online tactics have had like an impact on turnout, voters, like its effectivity? Because I pretty much have only seen like the online stuff. So in your guys' eyes, like how do you guys view this as effective?
I mean, we cannot tell you what the voter turnout is right now. That would be against the code, but
But
we
just
could
like the logic of like picking these in particular,
picking
of the
what.
online, the stuff,
Mhm.
what
But
like the logic was to putting the student money towards that.
to be reinvesting it in the student. Like we have been paying $8,000 every single year to Daily Bruin, BMG, sorry, not Daily Bruin, Bruin Media Group every single year for certain things, like for example, one-page publication, UCLA What's Bruin, UCLA What's Bruin. So I'm not sure, like all of you were candidates last year. We had to come to a video, 1-minute video, which BMG recorded, and that costed us $8,000. Can you just imagine that? And as the elections board chair and elections board vice chair, we felt that that use of student money was not judicious. So we took that $8,000 and we had a meeting with Bruin Media Group and we asked them for the statistics on, hey, we are giving you $8,000 every single year for the past 4 to 5 elections, as I have had the record. And every single year we asked them to just provide us the statistics. And they have been providing us with the statistic of UCLA What's Up, Bruin. And that statistic is not in relation to the elections as a whole. So we thought that that was not. And then we went through the statistics of the videos that they posted last year. And then we went throughout the stuff that they did last year. For example, in every single kiosk where Daily Bruin is being distributed, they put like elections. We checked the efficacy of all those things. And we found out that using those $8,000 for these items would not be a judicious use of student money. We should be reinvesting it in students. And that is where we use those money. And from that, I think so $100 was spent on a cameo. Yeah, approximately $100, $200 was spent on a cameo. Compare that to $8,000 that was, okay, we thought as a board was a judicious use of those $8,000.
Yeah, so I think and the logic I was kind of looking for is so you guys have decided to reinvest, but in different online things. So like your guys' giveaway, and the cameo, correct? Like, so we're taking online from one to online to another?
Not online. Giveaways are not online.
No, but like how you're promoting it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, we have not only been promoting it online, we have been going to OCHC, we have been tabling on the Hill, we have been reaching out to different organizations. So it's not only online, it's a mix of both online and offline.
Right.
And also one more thing, just to add, since we are in the topic of this thing, we are also giving out 1,500 $5 gift cards away for every single student who votes. So it's not only like an online thing where like, students are like getting this thing every time. If you have seen, we have activations, Monster, Red Bull, we have activations every single day. So like that's something which we have.
All right. But I think basically what it just shows is there's a balance between online and in person and the importance of online campaigning. So in terms of the importance of having an online presence, the fact that graphics approvals have been this far delayed again, online campaigning is extremely important. And the fact that we're investing student fees in online things, and then we can't even have equitable distribution across per the elections code in terms of interpreting the code as written regarding graphics to be able to have candidates be able to campaign online, it is clear that you guys recognize the importance of voter turnout online. And we can talk about what is expected of these positions and the time commitment, et cetera. The positions are laid out very clearly. And in terms of when we interview for ARC, we even ask about those and make sure that candidates know exactly what they're signing up for and they provide those answers. So for there to be the justification that these have been delayed because it's unreasonable, no. In all of the things, in all of the ARC interviews, that is the first question, is what is your understanding of the position and what it entails, and candidates share exactly what they are. So for you to then go retroactively change it based off your interpretation or understanding of what is to be expected in this role is unfair, fundamentally.
There was no retroactive changing of the thing. The interpretation was there from day one, so there was no retroactive changing. The second thing, as stated earlier, we are still following the code that has been said. So like there is no like, even though there have been hurdles by the elections board, we are still following the code. We're not giving excuses for not following the code. I just wanted that to be on the record.
Retroactive in the sense that prior to you guys being appointed, the code as it stood and still stands now is 48 hours. Also, prior precedent last year was 48 hours. So I don't think that the capabilities of UCLA students have really drastically changed that much over the course of 1 year to where in prior elections we've been able to uphold this 48 hours. So what I mean is retroactive change in based off your interpretation of what the code and precedent was standing to then now. So making that change after the fact, when I'm sure, as you guys all stated in your ARC interviews, that you guys had read the code, understood what the role was, and now we're changing it. And even some of the other arguments that were made of, oh, how we didn't see that part in the code, you guys all attested that you had read the code. So bit confused on how some of this logic has stood up in terms of this hearing. There seems to be a lot of inconsistencies. I think this conversation has gone on so long because of these inconsistencies, because rather than, Carl, you mentioned the importance of just taking accountability, there seems to be a lot of, you know what, like we're trying to explain or our logic or not retroactive, we thought this and we interpreted this, but not a lot of accountability being taken of, you know what, we messed up, we didn't see that part of the code, or this was done in error, or even the stuff we have said is not true. There seems to be no accountability, because in the times I listed right now, 2 of them I just counted fall out of the 16-hour business hour which you had said, and we're talking business strictly. But if that's a statement you are making and you have consistently stood on it, even after I read you the times. So
Quick question, sorry. The thing which you said, which is not 16 business hour, is it under 48 business hours? Is it against the code?
We're not going to be talking about 16 to 48 because regardless of these are all over 48 or 72 of what the code states of 48 hours strictly.
See, we are not here to argue. We should wait for the judicial board to make its decision, because we could go, we could go arguing our interpretation. Council can go arguing its interpretation. The code, as well as the USAC constitution, clearly states that if there is any disagreement between council and the elections board, which is an independent, neutral, third-party body, judicial board needs to be included in that. And that's what we have done, because clearly that this thing which we are having the discussion is not productive. Like, we have been sitting, I think, so for the past 1 hour, one-ish hour, like more than 1 hour, and we are not here, and we're not hearing remedies. We're just hearing, okay.
We're changing from the subject that we had requested that they be here, and I asked that we stick on that subject. If you have any other problems, please file with the judicial board. With that said, Sherry.
I request one more time because there's 20 seconds.
You can motion.
I motion to add 10 minutes to this discussion.
I second it.
Sherry motions, Chris seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. With a vote of 7 to 4 to 0, that motion fails and it passes. Oh, okay, sorry. Passes. 10 minutes. I'm tired, guys. We aren't like I'm genuinely tired. We're not the judicial board. We're not interpreting these decisions. Yeah, Sherry. Sherry and and then Sherry. Yes, we can. Yeah, recess. So what, for 10 minutes? Okay, yeah, 9:18 basically. Let's motion just to be safe.
I motion for a 10-minute recess.
Second.
All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against. All abstaining with a vote of 10 to 0 to 0. That is recess. back, everyone. We're back. We are back. Please return to your seats. We are back. I'm going to be starting the timer automatically by myself at 9:19 p.m. If you have a question, please raise your hand. Sherry, the floor is yours. With the timer started now. The timer has started. It has. No,
Okay.
it started already at 9:19. Sherry?
Wait, yeah, I'm sorry. I don't mean to like drag this on any longer, but I think like the point about the graphics process is that obviously if I heard in this conversation you all like say 16 business hours and then 48 general hours and then mention 48 business hours. And so I think if it's not even clear within us, it's 100% not clear within candidates. And I think that sentiment has been felt very deeply by candidates who are literally sending us their like graphic submission timestamps. And so I guess my question is like, what can we do to remedy that situation? Do you guys have any ideas? Because I really do think that like online campaigning is a really integral part of elections and like how candidates are seen by their peers. And so I think even though there is only 3 days left, I don't have a solution, but if you guys do, I'd love to hear.
I think the main thing with like, yeah, we've been throwing a lot around of 48 hours, 40 business hours, 16 hours, all you know. But our interpretation has been the code is 48 business hours, but in actuality, we have been approving nearly 100% of all graphic approval requests within 16 business hours. So the code is under 48 business hours, but we have been in practice doing it at or within 16 business hours. In terms of like actual like practical solutions to like make that clear with candidates, definitely I think like something we would consider after all this is a communication to all the candidates to clearly delineate what our timeline is, because obviously if this is being brought up here in this space, there have been issues, and like we have admitted, there have been issues. So I think like the main thing would be a communication to all candidates to specifically clarify what our guidelines are.
Can we get a commitment to send that communication out by like start of day tomorrow morning?
I say to me, Mehmet, commit to you that we will be sending out that tomorrow at 7 a.m. PST, tomorrow morning.
Nico?
Okay, thank you for that commitment. I have one more thing I'd like to bring up from the election code. In section 5.2, candidate orientation meeting, there's a point saying that all campaign agents shall fill out a short form as designated by the election board chair, indicating that they accept and are fully aware of their status as a campaign agent and agreeing to abide by the rules, regulations, and necessary consequences from campaign violations, et cetera, et cetera. It's my understanding right now that no such form has been sent out and that you guys have only collected individual names of quote unquote campaign agents. Is that true? Has there been a form sent out for campaign agents to fill out to fully accept the terms of the election code?
Yes, that is correct. So we have already sent out a form on the day of the candidate orientation where candidate representatives have already filled out that form. And I think so. Could you go to election 11.2.2.2? Yeah, 11.2.2.2. So according to Article 11.2.2, it states each candidate and designated campaign representative is also responsible for the actions of all persons and organizations sponsoring, endorsing, or promoting their campaign, provided they are operating as an agent of their campaign. The Elections Board Executive Committee reserves the authority to determine whether a person is an agent of the campaign. Final discussion lies with the Elections Board Chair.
But there hasn't been a form sent to campaign agents.
Okay. No. And at the candidate orientation meeting, we asked the candidates and the agents that they brought to that meeting to sign in. However, we did not have a complete and updated list. I can't remember the exact date, but within the past couple of days of all campaign agents that have been added since then, which is we sent a communication out. I don't have the exact date, but in the past couple of days to request a list from every candidate of all of their campaign agents.
Okay, but without that form, like dignifying someone as a campaign agent, there's been notice of findings referring to complaints towards campaign agents that you have sanctioned on. But if you don't have that form for campaign agents to accept their responsibility as a campaign agent, is that not some sort of conflict?
No, because while we don't have that form, we use for those notice of findings, we use the evidence that's provided in those complaints and the election code definition of campaigning. And in terms of what is a campaign agent, the definition of a campaign agent in this election code, we use that and the evidence that's submitted in order to determine who has acted as a campaign agent, because a campaign agent can also be, within the elections code, a campaign agent can be someone who's not registered clearly as a campaign agent. So that is how we have come to that determination with it for those notices.
Chris?
Out of curiosity, have any candidates been disqualified based on something related to this?
For
Campaign agent?
campaign agents?
No disqualification has been done.
Has someone been permanently sanctioned for anything regarding this?
Yes.
Okay.
And just to be clear on that, we also had a judicial board case regarding that today, which we can't speak on. We leave it to the judicial board, but I could email you when we receive the.
Yes, you know, these things take time. You know, when people are going back and forth, like, yes, the judicial board voted this way, and then the other person who filed the petition has to appeal, it takes time. Some people may not have the capacity to go through another process to then file an appeal, etc. Like, we both know this, so I just want to put that out there, but I respect what you said. I have one last question. So earlier you mentioned that the like the e-board hasn't been fully staffed. That you guys are working with not fully staffed operations, etc. Why haven't those staffings occurred? I want to give you the opportunity to talk a little bit about that, like what's going on there. Why aren't these positions being filled? Why do you think?
Yeah. Also, I just want to like first comment on the judicial board and back and forth that you said. That is inherently the democratic process, and we know that the democratic process can be timely, but it is what is a system that you as council, as well as we as elections board and the judicial board upholds to that democratic process. In response to, do you want to go for that?
Yeah, I'll cede my time to Tommy.
Yeah. So I think in terms of, once again, we're doling sanctions based off campaign representatives from, again, the election code that is saying from the onset this form is supposed to be disseminated, not done. And now I'm hearing word from other candidates that you guys asked them to provide their list of campaign staff now this week, but then you also asked for a return time on those lists that fall under, let's even say 48 business hours or just 48 hours total. And your guys, this whole argument of like, oh, what an average person can do and getting back in a reasonable time. So it seems like there is consistently a double standard between the time frame that you guys are given to work and the time frame of these candidates, but also the fact that this form was not disseminated at the beginning of the election for campaign staff to willingly sign off on the code. How is it fair for you all to be doling sanctions when this, on subject matter of this, when it pertains to the code, was not followed? And you can say that, oh, judicial board hoard, but judicial board only hears based on the parts of the code that were submitted, to which none of them were submitted on this code, so you can't even bring that in because it wasn't submitted on this, so therefore the judicial board is not going to make a ruling on that.
On that last part specifically, the judicial board serves all undergraduate students, so undergraduate students as a whole have the opportunity to bring that. The election board has, all students have the opportunity to bring that. In terms of, oh my, can you help me out? Oh, in terms of campaign representatives, as was previously mentioned, and as has appeared with many sanctions that have been that have occurred, we use the election code definition of what is a campaign agent and what is a campaign action in order to levy those sanctions. In addition, that 48 business hours that you mentioned, that is specific to the graphics approval process. That is not that section of the code that we keep referencing, that we have said We have our interpretation. We have petitioned that interpretation to the judicial board. That is not applicable to the request for information that was sent out from the director of investigations. I understand your point about the business hours, but that code does not apply to that.
So my question is, did you guys follow the elections code for the record, for the public, that stated from the onset for campaign representatives to be registered, they fill out that form? Did you guys send out that form?
That form, or
Thank
we
you.
did not send out that form. No.
Time is up, basically. Sorry. Yeah, I mean, if we have more concerns, like I'm gonna be super honest, please. Both the elections board is an independent body, and it says so in both of our constitutions. And like this just seems like back and forth, and so my request is submit a form with the judicial board. I really have no other like suggestions. That's exactly what they are there for. They're there for interpretation. And so if you all want a motion to extend this and to go about this, do so. And then for those of you who don't want to, I strongly encourage you to vote no. So, I mean, I'm going to have to ask for a motion. Yeah, I'm going to have to ask for a motion to, I mean, I'll ask for a motion for 5 more minutes, but that would allow them for their closing statements. So if someone can please motion for this.
I can motion. I motion for 5 more minutes for closing statements and to offer solutions to all concerns raised.
Thank you. Is there a second?
A second.
Tommy motions, Daniel seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, all abstaining. With a vote of 12 to 0 to 0, we have extended the time for 5 more minutes. I will allow the chair and the vice chair to make closing statements.
I think throughout this discussion, there has been a difference in interpretation of the election code. The elections board stands firm in our commitment to upholding a fair and equal election and providing our candidates as many resources as possible to do so. Obviously, as has again been discussed very thoroughly, there have been technology issues, there have been issues that have popped up with forums and whatnot, and we take accountability for those mistakes and those issues. That is something that we work hard to remedy as it comes up. But again, we cannot predict every single issue that is going to come up. We cannot prevent every single issue that is going to come up. We are going to do our best to continue doing so, as has been done, but it's not going to be perfect. It's not a perfect process, but the elections board has worked to address every single issue that has been brought to our attention in a timely manner. Now, on the differences of interpretation, again, like we have said, that is how the elections board has interpreted the timeline for graphic approvals form. That has been the same interpretation of that line of code has held up since I was appointed. I'm sure Tamim can say since he was appointed. That interpretation has not changed throughout this process. There has been no retroactive changing of that code or our interpretation. We have stood firm in that interpretation of that line of code. There has, in our eyes, there has not been this massive amount of delays in the graphics approvals forms. Again, we have responded to nearly all graphic approvals forms within 48 business hours, and in practice, at or within approximately 16 business hours. Now, that interpretation, I understand, has been debated today. And in our eyes, we would want to wait for the judicial board opinion on that in response to our non-adversarial petition. Yes, we understand the election is on Friday. However, that has been the standard we have been operating for all candidates throughout this entire elections process. We have been applying all of our standards equally as is required in the elections code. The elections board is doing everything we can to maintain the equality and fairness of this election for all candidates in the same ways, with the same sanctions, with the same definitions, with the same determinations for every single candidate in the election. Thank you.
Yeah. Just wanted to add, we spoke about the designated campaign representative must sign a statement reaffirming the following: my participation in all. That has been done during the candidate orientation. Just wanted to bring that up. I just looked at the code and yes, we have done that. If you look at the candidate orientation slides, we have done that. So just wanted to rectify it for the record that this has not been missed. This has been done. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Well, with that, I adjourn our meeting today. I thought, Tommy, we scratched out executive session. There really isn't a point. We can deliberate, but ultimately they're going to be gone, and we can make them do something. And if they do, then like I can tell them over communication tomorrow. There really isn't a need.
Right.
Yeah, we can vote to remove it.
Yeah. Okay, then I vote to remove the executive session from the agenda. All right, motion. Anyone second?
I second.
Tommy motions, Brett seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, all abstaining. With a vote of 13 to 0, that is removed, and I adjourn today's meeting at 9:35 p.m.
Really quick before you go, if you're one of the 3 wonderful people that has submitted both your P card and your transition document, you can stop by the office anytime you like to pick up your graduation cord. We need to be out of this room in the next like 10 minutes, so please linger appropriately so that folks can have time to tear down. Thank you.